want to talk about direct bookings. So, Gordon, I'm going to start with you, home field advantage. What are some of the best ways to get customers direct in your experience? And I'll just quick anecdote. I saw your advertisement the moment I walked into this hotel. There's a big ad for the DDR museum in the elevator. So I think that's a great approach. I wouldn't have heard about your museum otherwise. How do you do that, and what do you do in market and out of market to grow your direct business?
Yeah, so 95%, Alex, of our business is coming from direct pickup of guests in Berlin. Just 5% we make with tour operators outside, advertising outside and abroad in the world.
Okay. And so you use your website to market direct business as well. What are some of the strategies you employ on your website, for example, for growing your direct business?
Mobile. I heard from Douglas. So we make a new website 1.5 years ago, mobile first, and trying to make the booking process as lean as possible with the less steps as possible, and brings not more online bookings, but it works.
Gal, why is maintaining a healthy share of your direct bookings so important? Why, as an operator, do you really want to pay attention to that?
So we have a combined business of hostels and tours, and learning from the accommodation side of things, we've seen periodically commission levels rising, and every time that happens, it makes you question how sustainable that is and when the next time that's going to happen. And I think if you look forward and understand that, then you will realize how important it is to maintain your own direct channels together in combination with OTAs and other channels. But you don't want to be taken hostage, so to speak, down the road.
So how would you be taken hostage?
Well, if you put all your eggs in that one basket of having somebody else sell your product, then they could either downgrade you on their site, pull you off, maybe the algorithm is screwed, or jack up the commission to a point where it's not profitable for you and you're out of business, and you've got to then go back and learn up on all these marketing aspects of getting your customers directly. And it might be too late, so got to be careful.
And Christian, you've been in the market and in the business for a very long time. Do you have any examples of how it's possible to let that get out of control? Have you experienced that in your business?
Yeah, I remember years, it was long, I think 15 years ago, a wise man, actually he wasn't that wise, but he was a man, and he told me, he said, you can never let one OTA, one customer be more than 25% of your business. And I said, what does this mean, 25%? And he said, well, at 25%, if you lose that customer, which happens, they turn you off or you get into an argument or something happens with them, you could lose your business. So you have to diversify. So if you get to that 25%, and it's somewhat of an arbitrary number, but it's in that area, then you need to grow the business, is what he told me. And I never forgot that number. And at that time, actually 30% of my business was from an OTA who no longer exists. But I took that and listened to that and grew the business, diversified. And for me, that was about then you control, you're not beholden to one customer who could turn you off.
I will say, though, maybe that's, I think, slightly simplistic. I think from a certain volume or a certain size, you can afford to then invest a lot in direct. I think if you're a one-off paragliding instructor and you're the product, or a tour guide, I think that's what you do. You focus on you being the product and giving it, and I think it's then very hard to also worry about investing in this time-consuming and often expensive endeavor of creating your direct channels. So I think that also plays in and needs to be kept in mind.
And we heard a little bit in the last session about really understanding your customer. I think it was in the direct pricing panel. How much does that play into it, and what do you guys employ? What methods do you guys employ to actually understand your customer, and how does that play into your direct booking?
Well, I don't really care. We have such a broad product. It's probably not so relevant for us. It's hop on, hop off. It's probably the most generic tourism product. So we have people of all ages, demographics, all different nationalities. So we don't really focus on that. We have a kind of a shotgun approach. So we work with a lot of OTAs, dozens of OTAs, and we list as many places as we can. And we're really not looking for these little niche markets because we're such a broad product.
But Gal, would you agree with that?
I mean, for us, it's very important. I think it starts by my partner and myself, my other partners, being our own customers. So I think that helps. If you enjoy what we do, like we just heard, if you enjoy beer, you know what a good beer experience is going to be like. And it was the same for us setting up tours, hostel, and all our products. We also send a lot of staff, either as mystery shoppers or as just for training. So we get a feel for the customers, and also we try as much as possible to own the relationship with the customers. So we have direct channel, and they can feed us the information. And another great tool that the big portals and the OTAs provide is the rankings. And you really need to be looking at that and engaged in that conversation. Will give you. I mean, a lot of people look at it, as a threat or something that's scary. You could get dinged in a review, but we look at it as, you need to look at it as an opportunity to learn more about what you're doing right, what you need to do better.
But if I'm, let's say, an operator here in the audience, and maybe I'm not even working with any distributors, and I don't have those tools, where should I go and what should I do?
To find out what your customers would want,
Yep.
I think running a couple of pilot experiences would give you a good indication.
Ask your customers really on spot where they are coming from to understand better how they booked. So we make once per year a questionnaire because we are unable to ask visitors in the museum where they are coming from because we have no time. But we can do it once per year with students, with help to really make this excursion with them, and then you find out where your customers are coming from and why they are take your booking engine or why they are going through a tour operator, how they come to your spot.
All right. Let's switch gears for a second. So, Christian, you actually have in San Francisco, I understand, a whole network of concierges
Yep.
in market. Tell us a little bit about how you did that, how you built that, and how effective it is for your business.
Yeah, we started that about 10 years ago, actually, in partnership with Expedia. Expedia Local Expert back then had a few sort of contracted out concierge services. So we staff the desk inside the hotel, and we represent that hotel, and we're non-branded, and we're just a concierge service. So we sell our own products, we sell our competitors' products, most of them. And we sort of pay ourselves commission, and we run it as a standalone business. I wouldn't recommend it. Concierge, it's declining every year. It's still sustainable. The economics have changed a little bit. We now get paid to operate most of these desks, where before we used to pay rent. And it's also difficult if you're a smaller operator or you're a small niche product. It's difficult to get that return. We're more general, so most customers that walk in, we'll have a good shot at selling them a hop on, hop off.
I thought all concierges are electronical. No, they are not.
Yeah, they've tried the bots, the concierge bots, and I don't think they're going to go away. Travel agents are back, and people do like that personal service. Yeah, it's not what it was, but there are a percentage of people who want to talk to a person. You can find that on Yelp. You can find it on various review sites, but they want to speak to a person, look in their eyes, and have a conversation and see what they recommend.
Yeah.
So there's still.
I think with Airbnb growing, it's an expected service in hotels, and we have that as well. That if you go to a hotel, you're not staying in an Airbnb. There's going to be somebody to provide you service and be able to give you information and something that's localized, ideally. And I think so they're going to change, but not necessarily go away entirely.
So for you obviously you have a hostel business and a tour business. Do those feed
Correct.
each other? How does
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's mostly the same clientele that is looking for the same product. Sleeping is more functionality. It's also an experience, but we're not a resort. People come to see and do things, and they need somewhere to sleep that's hopefully fun and clean and safe. And they definitely feed into each other well. And having also a tour business has allowed us to diversify and also get a lot of clientele from other places. Sometimes they convert to sleeping with us, but often, they prefer a hotel or an Airbnb. Yes, that works well as a direct channel.
So in terms of acquiring customers directly, a lot of people in the audience will probably know if they're working with distributors, there's frequently these price parity clauses that they might have to have signed. First, I'm just going to open it up to you, Gal. What's your opinion on those, and how do you, get around that if you, for example, wanting to give someone an incentive to book directly?
So can we get a show of hands of OTAs in the room
Yeah, who's
quickly?
sitting there, yeah.
I think they're all
See
gone.
Travis
They're all
over
gone.
there, but yeah, okay. Yeah, you can all leave now. I'm kidding. So price parity. So again, learning from the hospitality segment, price parity was actually thrown out the window by the courts, and OTAs for accommodation aren't supposed to expect that. What they do expect, which is fair, is price parity with competing OTAs, so that you don't just provide a cheaper price to a competing OTA. And so we do proactively mark up pricing for OTAs. Often the OTAs run campaigns, and they bite into their own commission and might undercut you as well. So how does price parity play in there, right? So we do differentiate our own pricing from the prices we provide OTAs, and I think that's just fair, and it works well.
Gordon, do you employ the same practices?
Yeah, we offer 10% below the price on the cash desk to OTAs as well, because they are asking for it. I would change it because
So you give
I'm
a better
CEO.
price to OTAs
Of course.
and a commission.
Yeah. And that's more or less by mistake. So we have to change that. And the question is really who owns his rates and his inventory. And with dynamic pricing, the funnel is getting smaller and smaller because you have to offer that to the whole bunch of your partners, and that's fair. I mean, if they are partners, it's fair. If they are not partners, then you have to save your rates.
So, Gal, have you ever faced any blowback from doing that, right? Like offering those kind of discounts? Every operator in the room is probably thinking, well, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get delisted. What would be your advice?
Not so much on with the tours business. With the accommodation business, initially it was it was a little bit more challenging. But no, on the tours business, at least from my experience, has been that OTAs don't often complain about the fact that we provide slightly cheaper pricing or different pricing, and it's been okay so far. But maybe after this panel, it might not be. We'll see.
We're not looking to get Gal in trouble here. Promise.
Happened before.
So, but with OTAs being really essentially tech and marketing companies, there's a lot of contention for the same customer, especially as you move as an operator to acquiring more direct bookings also from the online world. So things like, PPC and SEM, right? So how, as an operator, can I really compete in that space right now, right? Where, for example, on Google or Facebook ads? Is that still a possibility
I'll
for
just
me?
say that Douglas said we're not allowed to use abbreviations. You just did. Okay.
Sorry. That's a good point.
There's a lot of OTA. It used to be simple. An OTA was pre-arrival. People would get on a plane or drive and land in destination, and then we take over. And I'm still fairly territorial over that in-destination sale. Now, obviously, we have smartphones. People buy tickets on our street corner in front of our bus on their phone on an OTA site. The OTAs now have direct access to last-minute availability, which is great, but it gets them the ability to sell up to a minute before. So I'm still fairly territorial. A lot of OTAs don't really have unique distribution. And if all they're doing is taking the commission and giving that to Google, that's no benefit to me. And some OTAs do that. Others have hotel networks and other things, and it is unique, and they have reach into markets that we can't. But OTAs that just turn our money around and give it to Google cost us money. It bids up the price of those words, which we should be more competitive for. So it's a problem in paid search. And no, I don't think that's settled now. There's arguments and nothing. You've had some experience with OTAs bidding on keywords, on your own brand keywords, and it's problematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing we do early in the conversation with OTAs we start working with is we ask them not to bid on our brand. Because obviously they'll do it much better. They have deeper pockets, they're tech professionals, and they have manager accounts dedicated within Google because they spend a lot of money there, so they get love. And we ask them to do that. Often they say they will, and then they don't, with all kinds of excuses. But and it's a bit tricky. It's a bit of a cat and mouse game that you really have to be on top of if you're going to play. Also, the way to go around it is to make sure that your brand is trademarked, and then you can appeal to Google and say, hey, somebody else is bidding on my trademark, and then they're supposed to take it off. They often do, except for it depends on the country that this ad was displayed in, and that's where it gets complicated. So if you want to cover most bases, register in the EU, maybe North America, where your customers are coming from, and then you can get Google to remove those ads. I would encourage, though, having an open relationship with your conversation with the OTA, and you know, communicating ahead of time that you'd rather they not do that, and they will have sometimes good explanations on why it's beneficial for you that they do that. If you're not convinced, then don't agree, and then you have to monitor that they actually don't, or go around to Google. But yeah, it's better to be open.
Gordon, do you guys do paid PPC? Do you do that for yourself, or?
Not for the DDR museum, because we have so natural high guest satisfaction and guests. So I learned today we are the big as Moulin Rouge is, so we have over 500,000 visitors. But it brings us also to other problems, yeah, to spend more time on the service desk, to ask questions by visitors. So that's why we benefit a little bit the online tickets, to have more time on the cash desk for visitors. So, but I absolutely agree on the brand bidding. You bring as an attraction, you bring your brand inside an OTA, helping them to grow with you. So it should be a partnership, and it should be a strong partnership, and from both sides.
If they disagree, ask if they mind that you bid on their brand as well. Okay, that's cool. I'll bid on whatever OTA, all of them. See if they agree. It's too long. Sorry.
So, Gordon, you told me previously that one of your big focuses is on the customer experience, and you have a very interesting website. I think first time I've seen this on a museum website is customers can actually dip in and look at every object that's on display on your museum, and that, I think, it's an interesting way to kind of enhance the customer experience. And customer experience is a big part, I think, of owning the direct customer. So from a customer experience perspective, how much does, are you doing that because you want to gain more direct customers? Just giving them kind of an advanced taste, a much more attractive experience on your website versus what you'd get with your product on an OTA?
Yeah, so we allow to make photos to push the social media channels, and to get these as a booking tool at the end. And to give the experience to the customer, to the visitor, that he has the feeling after his stay, this was an experience. I mean, that's the success Sarah told before. Make your product livingful and handsome, if possible, and unique. So the unique story is also a success.
Yeah, I think that's critical. And economically, fundamentally, you can't compete with marketplaces. And in the long term, marketplaces win. But what you can do is differentiate your own website. The marketplaces are locked into templates, then they can't ever really get off those templates. But you have a great website, and you have all that unique content that they can't replicate. Yeah. I think that's a great way to differentiate your own web that they...
Maybe also it helps, Christian, that we have a low price. So it's maybe for an operator
both,
not that...
Yeah.
I will say the one thing to maybe that you do want to copy from the good OTAs is the booking funnel. They spend a huge amount of money A/B testing every single development that's in there that you will never have. So if you want to build a good booking flow into your website, yeah, it's got to look and feel like your own product, but then the funnel should be as close as possible to the OTAs that you like to book on, because that's, they convert the best. Bit of a tip.
So we have about a minute left, so I'm going to ask you three to future gaze a little bit. So technology is getting better, all right? Distribution companies are dominating some of the PPC and SEM, sorry for the acronyms again. And hotel chains are getting into the action too. So I don't think it's going to be long before the concierge is maybe not as independent as he was previously, maybe even powered by Alexa, right? So how should tour operators prepare for that future, or in some cases reality today, where that channel too might be under threat?
Specifically the concierge channel?
Yep.
You know, that's so difficult. The hotel channel frustrates me because it's an obvious place that we should all be selling our product through. Hotels at the same time are stripping away marketing material from the lobby, from the rooms, and they're becoming sort of a sterile place to be. So I do think that'll come back. I do think hotels are looking for that incremental revenue that we collectively can provide. So I do think there's movement. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I do think they will come back as a channel. I don't know who's going to crack it, but I think somebody out there will.
I'm a lot more worried with, you know, what we heard earlier this week, OTAs going into the operating field. They have such an enormous amount of data that's more or less constructed from the products that we offer, that they could really create very, you know, precise products and also have the visibility to sell them. So that's, I mean, I find that, you know, something of concern that we need to look at. At the end of the day, whether it's hotel or other channels, either you're minded to the fact that you need other channels and that you're proactively creating them and managing them, or you're small and you forfeit and you try to use as many as possible, but you realize that if you're going to be the product, you're going to have to let somebody else do the selling.
Gordon, final words. Local channels under threat?
I have no answer on that because I can't look in the glass, but I think it's really important that you look at your own product and to find the right partners if it comes to push the distribution and ask the questions: where comes the money from? How do you get your money? How do you earn that? How we can help to grow? How you can help us to grow? And if you have the answers to these questions, I think then you have a relevant partner for the future to grow with.
All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please thank Gordon, Gal, and Christian.